Clerk will call the roll, please.
Counsel Capone.
Here.
Counsel Del Sola.
Here.
Counsel DeFlorio. Here. Counsel DePiero.
Here.
Counsel Mangan.
Here.
Counsel Matusky.
Here.
Counsel McKinnon.
Here.
Counsel McLaughlin.
Here.
Counsel Napolitano.
Here.
Counsel Simonelli.
Here.
Counsel Hanlon.
Here.
11 members present, Mr. President.
Would the audience please stand and join the council in the pledge allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing. We have the passing of Phil Milano, who was a longtime city employee, great friend of mine, and Italo Leo, who was an uncle to our councilwoman, Rosa DeFlorio. So a moment of silence, please.
Mr. President, if I may as well.
Yes.
Personal privilege. A former colleague of ours, Donna White, her mother had passed away as well. So if we could please add her to the list.
Donna White, former city councilor with us and on the school committee also. So moment of silence for her mother. Thank you. Thank you. Clerk will read the first item on the agenda. I got it right.
Yeah, no, first public participation.
Oh,
Public participation.
motion made and second for public participation. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You have moved for public participation.
I don't
Counsel
have anybody on the sign-in sheet.
No one on the sign-in sheet. Is there
So-
anyone in the audience that wishes to speak before the city council on any subject matter whatsoever?
Make a motion, hearing none, make a motion to close public participation.
Motion made and second to close public speaking, participation. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You have
Mr.
closed.
Chairman,
Councilman, I'm sorry, he had his hand up. Councilman Magan.
President, I just want to make a motion. I know we have all these appointments, but they're going to be getting referred back temporarily to the mayor's office. So I'd like to make a motion that we waive the reading, items 1 through 28, thank you, Counselor, and refer back to the mayor's office.
Yes. Any second?
Could I just ask the reason for that, Mr. President?
Mayor's
don't know.
request.
Oh, okay.
Motion made and second to refer subject matters 1 through 28 back to the mayor's office. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You have referred items 1 through 28 back to the mayor's office. Clerk will read the next item.
Mr. Chairman, I have a sign-in sheet.
Yes?
And if we could please suspend the rules, take items number 54.
Second, anyone? Second. Motion made and second to take item number 54. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Item number 54 is before you. Clerk will please read item 54.
Auditor.
Okay. Michael, 54. Got to read it. Mike?
I know.
Okay.
Number 54 first, and then,
Item number 54 is an order sponsored by Councilor John F. Hanlon's presence, transfer and appropriate $130,000 from budgetary fund balance into the Mount Washington Street wall account. This is for additional work needed beyond the scope of the bid that was currently received.
We have the city auditor and the city engineer before us, please.
Motion made, second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? All the ayes have it. Thank you for appearing, gentlemen. Councilman Capone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to our invited guests. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. On this one, I know that the work on Mount Washington Street is desperate need. I think we all realize that. I was wondering where we are with the project. If you could just give us a general overview of where we're at, what we already have set aside, that this is going to be added to, what the total costs are, the overview of the work that's going to be done. And one other thing that I'd like to speak to, and I know that I spoke with our engineer in the past, there's a strip of land behind there that I'm told belongs to the city, and there are trees on there, and the tree limbs are pretty massive tree limbs. One of the concerns that the residents have in that area is that the weight of those tree limbs is gonna come down, and if you look at it down that row, it's gonna land squarely on their property. So I'm wondering if we could, if that wasn't included in the scope of work, if that's something that we could look at, and if that's an additional appropriation, so be it, because I do think that it's dangerous enough of a condition that we might as well do everything at the same time. But if you could speak to the scope of the work and the total cost and what we have, I would greatly appreciate that.
Sure thing, councilors. Bill O'Rourke, Director of Engineering. This Mount Washington Street wall is dilapidated. It's spalled. Over the years, we've been heavily salting those hills, and with the spray of the salter, the salt deteriorates the wall in an expeditious fashion. Over the years, it's crumbled, and that is a city asset, and so we are responsible for fixing it. A few years back, the city hired Bayside Engineering, a consultant, to take care of that design. They designed it, and they bid it, and we didn't proceed with the project on account of, I believe, funding. I apologize, I misspoke. We didn't proceed with the project on account that people had pools in the vicinity of the wall, and we were going to be starting construction in the middle of the summer, and it may have prevented people from using their pools. For that reason, we delayed the project to the point where the contractor who provided a very nice price for us, he couldn't extend his bid for that long a period. So we had to rebid the project. We rebid the project in December. We got 4 bids, and our low bid was a contractor, Tasco Construction. They came in a little bit higher than the first contractor that was low bid, but it was more money than we had appropriated in the past. We had $210,000 sitting in an account waiting to perform this construction work, and the second time we bid it, the low bid was $261,000. This forced me to come back to the city council here and ask for additional funding. So the way the funding works, let me go through the numbers if you will. We have $210,000 in an account. We are asking for permission to spend $130,000 more for a number of reasons. First of all, we need to carry a $51,000 deficit for the low bidder. We would like the help of construction services, a structural engineer out there doing part-time inspection of the wall, making sure the contractor is performing his job to the plans and specs. And we have $50,000 extra we are asking for because we have learned from the structural engineer that the wall has deteriorated further in the last 2 years since the structural engineer put the plan together. So when we're out there and we're repairing the wall, we're doing spot repairs on the wall. So he'll take a saw and he'll cut out an area that's deteriorated, and he'll put rebars in the wall, and we'll simply pour on top of that wall up to the top, the existing top of that wall. In the last 2 years, that limit of work has expanded, and that's not included in the last set that we bid. So we anticipate extras on the job that will be legitimate, okay? That's why we want to have the structural engineer there assisting city staff to make sure that we get it right. Counselor, you mentioned a tree out there that has some limbs, and we're concerned about them.
Excuse me.
Yes, please,
I'm going to ask that you do not discuss the tree. The tree was not on the calendar, and I know you may be ready to answer the question. The question was a good question, but the problem is that nobody else is ready to look for those answers, so they may not be able to respond with that. So unless there's something really that this tree is attached to that wall, that's the reason I'm saying you can speak up.
If I may, and that's fine, whatever the will of the body is, the requirement of the 7 days is to give our guest an opportunity to respond, not to give the council members an opportunity to ask questions. If the invited guest wishes to address it, that's great. If the invited guest does not wish to address it, that's fine too. The concern that I have is because the amount of money we're talking about, if you incorporate the tree limbs, which I think is part and parcel with that wall project, because if you look down there, those tree limbs are so thick and they're so big, they're gonna crush a roof on those properties. So I absolutely want to make sure that those are incorporated with the project. If it isn't, we can always talk about it later, but if the guest is here and the guest is willing to ask the question, answer the question, I'm more than happy to hear it, but I'll leave it to the guest.
I'm going to let you continue, but the point is, remember that if it doesn't pertain to the question, it shouldn't really be asked. We have asked, and they allowed it to be asked, so continue to go on.
Well, Counselor, I'm happy to address the limbs. I haven't seen the limbs, but I understand that they need addressing. So I'm happy to take a ride out there with you and assess these limbs and make a decision. We'll also bring that to the contractor's attention, and we'll negotiate with the contractor if it becomes necessary.
I do appreciate that. And so what we'll do for the remainder of the evening, because you haven't seen it, we'll save that for another time, as the President had mentioned, and we'll be in touch, and we can go take a look. I do appreciate you addressing that. And if we could just turn your attention back to the actual wall, the scope of the work as it is, that'd be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Councilor McKinnon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, to the city engineer, director.
No.
Let me see.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm, would you like to know more about the scope?
Yes.
I am not
Yes.
fully.
I'll yield, Mr. President. I will yield.
All right, I'm going to do a 5-minute thing here.
Okay, that's
So,
fine.
I'll get back to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So some of the residents have
Excuse
asked
me,
me.
Counselor?
Oh,
I meant.
oh, I'm sorry.
You had your 5. I'll get right back to you.
I had my 5?
Yeah, okay. Another 5 for the next people, so.
I asked a quick question and it was responded to, but I don't think I took 5 minutes.
I'll
but
yield
so
a
be
minute
it.
of my time to Councilman Capone, if you need, take a, okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Capone. I have a couple of questions. Just, we've had, this has been going on for how long of a period of time?
Decades?
Absolutely. Now, if in fact, is this going to be the last time, money-wise, that you're gonna be coming to appropriate money for this? Or is this the
No,
end result, or
no.
are we gonna be?
I anticipate, and we had conversations with the structural engineer, this is simply a Band-Aid fix that will get us through 20, 30 years, perhaps more if we're very careful with spreading that salt, which I said deteriorates the wall. But the full value of reconstructing that whole wall is significant, into the millions, and we felt more comfortable providing a Band-Aid fix for a 20, 25, 30-year period at this time.
The cost of repairing the wall entirely, how much would that cost? Estimate?
I have no idea.
Okay,
We've never looked at it,
all right,
but I feel comfortable saying it would be in the millions.
okay. And so, this 130,000, that should do the trick for 20 to 30
We believe
years?
so. We believe so. So it's actually 210 plus the 130, which will be the total cost.
Okay. And we're gonna be, is it just the salt that's hitting this wall that's causing the problem, or is there a drainage issue? Because I can remember a former colleague of mine speaking about this before, and I know that there was a number of issues that were there. Is it a drainage issue as well, or no?
I'm not familiar with it being a drainage issue. I haven't looked at it that closely.
Okay,
I'm new to the city.
yeah, that's why I just wanted to.
If I were here in the city, I would have probably walked around the wall a bit more, observed more things, and could have more information for you, but I haven't really walked the site and become familiar
Well,
with the
when
design.
we take a ride with Councilman Capone, why don't
Happy
you
to look
take
at
a-
everything.
I'll come with you as well, and we could take a look at drainage and
Keep in
trees.
mind that it's dependent upon the time of year that you drive out there. You don't want to be driving out there in a dry season. You won't see groundwater coming through that wall.
What about now? This would probably.
We
well,
haven't received a
maybe
lot of rain. We've
spring.
received snow, but it's a question of the groundwater characteristics, and it's also a function of whether there's a perched water table out there.
Sure.
I just don't know.
Okay, well, I'll leave that up to you, and you have my number, and I have yours, so, thank you very much.
Councilor DeFlorio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to agree with Councilor Capone, because I've also been up there, and those trees were a problem. And I know the city, at one point, a couple of years ago, they had to hire outside people to go cut those trees. I believe those trees are also a problem with the foundation of the wall, the roots underneath. So I'm in agreement with Councilor Capone that we really should be looking at those trees and doing the job at the same time, because I believe that's also a problem, is the roots of the trees going inside that wall. You know what happens when the roots go underneath the foundation, it lifts everything. So I really, those people up there are really, really afraid of those trees. I know that for a fact. And I had brought this up before. I'd called city services, and like I said, they had to hire special people. Our people couldn't do it, cut the trees, because they're up, it's like a hill. It's like a 3-tier hill. And those trees are really, really large. So I would agree with incorporating money to also take care of the trees at the same time you do the wall. Thank you.
Councilor McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. O'Rourke, is it normal protocol to add additional money to a bid that has already gone out and been awarded? Is it okay with procurement laws that we add additional money to an awarded bid? Is that okay? Just procurement laws, I don't know them, so.
We're not doing that. We had a first bid,
Yep.
and it was a low bid. We had enough money for that first contractor, but he would not extend his bid for the period of time we asked him. So he withdrew his bid. He's allowed to do that. We had to rebid it. We did. We got 4 contractors bidding, and they were higher than what we had allotted. So we had $210,000 in an account. We had a low bid come in at $261,000. I need to come before you for additional funds to pay for that. That's why I'm here today.
Okay. I understand the position that you're in. I'm just not sure that procurement laws are for this particular purpose. I think that if we're bidding out of contract that is larger than what we have allocated for, maybe, I don't know, can we go back out and say, okay, throw out the 4 bids, none of you came within the scope of.
That's not appropriate. We wouldn't do that.
So they're allowed to bid, and we have to fund the lowest bidder at that point.
If we choose to fund the low bidder,
Okay.
that is correct. That's what we're doing. We're not doing anything inappropriate.
No, I don't think we are. I'm just saying, can we take the 4 bidders, throw them out and say, your bid is too high, and see if we can find another contractor out there that is willing to come in and meet specs and come in at the number that we've allocated for. I
If
don't
we
think
threw
anybody's
out the
doing-
4 bids, then the low bidder has every right to bid protest, and we get into a legal mess with the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
Because the interest would be to rebid the plans. Your question alludes to the fact that we would rebid the plans exactly as we did in December. You can't do that.
Well, no, if we're gonna add another scope of work to the trees, or
You
we're
would-
going to
That's
look more
minimal.
into
That's
it.
minimal. No, I wouldn't say, no. We wouldn't pull
Okay.
this bid
No, it's a question. I
just for
appreciate the
trees.
answer.
No, we wouldn't do that at all.
Councilor Delasola?
Bill, thank you. The work that's gonna be done, are we just gonna, I know we're gonna fix the wall, we're just gonna cut sections out like we did
It's
in
my
the past?
understanding. I think we're cutting sections out. I believe we might have a full section where we might have to get down to the footing. Most of the excavation is going to be taking place on the street side, so we'll be eliminating the sidewalk for a period so we can dig down, cut out the proper section of wall, and rebuild the wall to its original elevation. There will be some impact to people's properties. But I anticipate that our contractor, as well as city staff, will be working with those people, giving them plenty of notice on what to expect.
That was my second question. We'll be in the yard also of the homeowner. Any damage, obviously, the contractor is responsible to.
Yeah, the contractor typically should be taking pre-existing video pictures of the site. I've had experiences in my career where people have construction take place in front of their house, and they say their foundation is cracked, or they have cracked windows, or something happened, and they try to get new storm windows or something.
Right. And the fence will be replaced also.
So what we do is we simply go back to the pre-construction video and say, sorry, pre-existing condition.
And the fence will be replaced? That's up there now?
Correct, that's part of the bid, yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilor Capone?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, I just want to make sure I'm clear about the scope of the work, and I apologize if you already answered this. With cutting out sections, is it the entire length of the street, or is it certain sections?
I apologize, Counselor. I was not involved in the design specifically. I have reviewed the plans, and I can't tell you exactly the limits of the work tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Fair enough. I have no other questions.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, gentlemen, for preparing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. President,
I'm sorry, Councilor Patero.
I move for reconsideration on item number 16.
We're not finished with this.
Oh, I apologize.
Favorable action.
Hold on, on the motion? On the minute. Mr. Councilman Simonelli.
Sure. So it is money well spent. It will get, it'll give the people some well-needed relief with this problem, and hopefully, for once and for all, the problem will be fixed.
So you're seconding the motion?
Yes.
Councilor Capone?
Thank you, Mr. President. I am wholeheartedly in favor of the issue, but I do want to know what the full scope of the work is. I would recommend that we lay this on the table to our next meeting, because it's a one-time vote. I don't think we have to vote on this twice. And we'll invite the Director of Engineering back, and at that time, he could probably tell us exactly what's happening on there before we expend $130,000. So I would ask that we lay this on the table to our next meeting, inviting the Director of Engineering, and I will provide questions to him in advance so he knows what we're looking for.
Second. Motion made and second. Any further discussion on the tabling it until the next meeting? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, tabled until the next meeting, inviting the Director back.
Reconsider 16. Go ahead.
I apologize for getting ahead of myself, but I move for reconsideration of item number 16 because it seemed to get looped in with all those
16?
first items.
Second the motion.
Clerk will read item number 16. I'm sorry, hold on. All in favor of reconsideration?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Clerk will read item 16.
Item number 16, Mr. President, is an order sponsored by Council John Handler, President, to transfer and appropriate $128,000 from the budgetary fund balance into the Market Street culvert account.
Refer to Ways and Means, Mr. Chairman. Can we make a motion to refer to the Ways and Means Committee, please?
You want to refer it to committee?
Yes, refer to Ways and Means.
Okay. Second? Anybody? Motion made and second to refer to committee. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? That referred to committee. Clerk, yes. Councilman McLaughlin?
Can I make a motion to take items number 29 through 36?
29.
Read the calendar as is and ask for favorable action? Strike out item 35 on that motion, please, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President?
Okay, item 29 through item 34?
36, striking out item 35.
Not counting item 35. Okay, motion is to take collectively item number 29 through 34 plus 36. And? I got, yeah, and what do you want to do with it? Take them collectively?
Take them collectively, as long as all the papers are in order for the items.
Okay. Second, motion made, second, take those collectively, Michael?
Yep.
Okay.
Item number 29 is the second-class motor dealer license BMW I'm sorry, first and second, for BMW motorcycles, DBA Parkway Cycle, 1865 Revere Beach Parkway. Item 30, Fortune license, Debbie Green, DBA Second Boutique, 1936 Revere Beach Parkway. Second-class motor dealer license is item number 31, Mel Services at 80 Tremont Street. Item number 32 is second-class motor dealer license, Christopher Auto Sales, 367 3rd Street. Item number 33, second-class motor dealer license, Richard Solly Parkway Motor Sales, 2034 Revere Beach Parkway. Item number 34 is a second-class motor dealer, H&F Auto Sales, Mega Auto at 3 Everett Ave. And item number 36, second-class motor from Empire Auto Sales Incorporated, 7 Beecham Street.
Mr. Chairman, are
And to
these
the
all
clerk,
renewals?
was, the question was asked, are all the papers in
Yes.
order? All the papers are in order, Counselor.
Are these all, they're all renewals?
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion for
Favorable
favorable.
action on the orders, then.
Motion second, favorable action, items number 29 through 34 plus 36, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Counselor
Motion made.
Capone.
Yes.
Counselor Delasola.
Yes.
Counselor DeFlorio.
Yes.
Counselor DePiero.
Yes.
Counselor Mangan.
Yes.
Counselor Matusky.
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Napolitano.
Yes.
Counselor Simonelli.
Yes.
Counselor Hanlon.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. President.
You have passed these 7 items. Clerk will read item number 35.
Item number 35 is a petition for a second-class motor dealer license from La Revere Family, DBA E&C Foreign Auto, 31 Rear Garden Street.
Is this a no?
No, it's a renewal.
Why did we leave this one out? Is there a reason for it?
I don't,
There is an outstanding police detail bill.
Councilman Magan? Oh, okay, very good.
So there's an outstanding,
Police detail bill from the LLC.
okay, so,
So refer to,
I'll make a motion to refer it to committee, yes.
give them some time to pay it.
Councilman Matusky?
Community and Business
second.
Development.
Second, yeah. Councilman Matusky?
Thank you, Mr. President. How much is the detail?
I think it's over $2,000.
Police detail to an auto body shop? I just.
No, it's to this corporation. Usually it doesn't make it to the agenda if any money is owed, but the police happened to catch this one on the agenda, and they're owed, I believe, for a significant amount of time. There's been numerous contact with them, trying to get them to pay this detail. And I don't want to misstate, but I think it might be almost like, it's over $2,000, over $2,000, so.
Okay, well,
so
you know,
we
I
wanna give them
happen,
time.
I know this businessman. He's an honest man.
Yep.
He's been there for many years.
I
He's the-
gave them a heads up, by the way, and did tell them.
So they're gonna
Counsel.
clear it up.
Yes, I did tell them, Counsel.
Thank you.
All right.
Any further discussion? Yes,
I second the
Councilman Capone?
motion, second the motion to refer to committee.
Motion second, referred back to committee. All in favor? All opposed? You have referred back to committee. Clerk will read item number 37.
Item number 37, communications by Councilor John F. Hanlon as president. I've assigned to the opioid crisis committee the following named members of the city council. Councilor John Leo McKinnon as chairman. Councilor Michael J. Magin as assistant chairman. Secretary Councilor Anthony DePiero as a member, and Councilor Michael McLaughlin as a member.
Councilman McKinnon?
Thank you, Mr. President. We had our first meeting tonight, and it was organizational, and it went very well. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and thank the other individuals that are on the committee, and we look to do good work. Thank you.
Accept the.
Accept the committee report, place on file.
Motion made second, placed on file. All in favor? All opposed? You have placed on file. 38.
Item number 38, Mr. President, is communication from Councilor John F. Hanlon. As president, I have assigned members to the School Finance Review Commission in accordance with item P, Section 3, multiple member bodies of the City of Everett Administrative Code as follows: Councilor Fred Capone, Councilor Peter Napolitano, Councilor Rosa DeFlorio, and Councilor Richard Delasola.
Accept communication, place on file.
Motion made and second to accept the communication and place it on file. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. You have placed on file.
Item number 39 is communication from Councilor John F. Hanlon as president. I have assigned the following members of the City Council committees for 2016 as follows: Committee on Budget, Councilor Michael J. Mangan as chairman, which consists of the entire membership. Committee on Community and Business Development, Councilor Rosa DeFlorio as chairman. Members are Councilor Peter A. Napolitano, Councilor Fred Capone, and Councilor Stephen Simonelli. Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety and Service, Councilor John Leo McKinnon is chair. Members are Councilor Fred Capone, Councilor Richard Delasola, and Councilor Michael McLaughlin. Committee on Legislative Affairs and Elections, Councilor Peter A. Napolitano is chair. Members are Councilor Wayne A. Matusky, Councilor Michael J. Mangan, Councilor Anthony DePiero. Committee on Ways and Means, Councilor Richard Delasola, chair. Members are Councilor Anthony DePiero, Councilor Michael McLaughlin, Councilor Wayne A. Matusky.
Accept the committee report.
Placed on file?
Place on file. Second.
To accept the committee report and place on file.
Aye.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, so moved. The ayes have it. Yes, Counselor?
I'm sorry. Can we-
McLaughlin, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we make a motion to take items number 40, 43, 45, 46, 47, 48, 50, and 52?
Well, I
Sep-
get 40 and 43. What were the other ones?
I got 40.
40, 43, 45, 46, 47, 48, 51, and 52.
Collectively?
Second motion.
Motion
Yeah.
made and seconded to accept 42, 3, 5, 6, 7, 48, 51, and 52. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You have accepted all collectively before you.
I'd like to accept the reports and refer back to sponsor, please.
Mr. Chairman, on the point, on the.
Motion
on the
made and,
motion.
did we get a
I'm
second
going to read them
first?
anyhow.
Yeah, they gotta be read.
Did I get a second? Oh, a motion made and second, okay. And on the motion, Councilman Napolitano.
Let's have the reading, if the
Yeah.
clerk could read them
Yeah.
first. I just have a question about one of the items as to why it's being referred back to sponsor.
All right, gonna have to
Item
be on.
42.
40 is Committee on Government
40,
Operations
sorry.
report asking the DPW Director to appear for the next Government Operations meeting to talk about upcoming snow season, steps to be taken to keep our cities safe, including fire hydrant markers. The recommendation, I imagine, refer back to sponsor. Yes.
43?
That's
Item
on,
number 42.
3.
I'm sorry, 3, Committee
no
on Government
recommendation
Operations,
for it to
Public
go
Safety,
back.
Public Service Report and Resolution for total compilation of work appears down on Ashland and Cumberland Street with time frame for total completion on both streets with a recommendation to refer back to sponsor.
45?
Item number 45. Committee on Government Operations
we're referring
report
that
to
back to
invite
sponsor
Chief of
then?
Police to our next Government Operations meeting to have all corner parking within 20 feet enforced
Those already in
with a
the process of
recommendation to
making
refer back to sponsor.
46.
Item number 46. Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety, Public Service Report, to invite City Services Director Jerry Navarro to our next Government Operations meeting relative to removing all 50-minute signs at corners that are not within 20 feet. With a recommendation to refer back to sponsor. 47, Government Operations Committee Report, consider running a message board alerting residents of a number of recent car break-ins, specifically in the Springfield Avenue area, so residents can be aware and take precaution with a recommendation to refer back to sponsor. Item number 48, Government Operations Public Safety Report. The Representative City Services Department appear at our next council meeting to discuss hot top replacement and cement sidewalks after contractors perform work evident along Bow Street and other locations throughout the city with a recommendation to refer back to sponsor. Item number 51, again, Government Operations, Public Safety, Public Service Report. The mayor and police chief consider opportunities to increase police visibility throughout the city, such as substations in the squares and officers on bicycles, with a recommendation to refer back to sponsor. And item number 52, Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety, Public Service Report. Representative Assessor's Office appear to discuss current tax classification system utilized by the city of Everett, with a recommendation to refer back to sponsor.
Councilman Napolitano.
Thank you. This is regarding item number 48. I didn't see anything on the report that had a recommendation to send it back to sponsor. I just want to see if we can confirm that,
47, 48.
only because the agenda doesn't reflect that recommendation.
Yes. Council, Jerry Navarro, Executive Director, City Services, was present. Councilor Capone asked if there were plans in place to address the defects of work done by contracts. Mr. Navarro explained that he had spoken with the contractors, received assurances the cement would be restored to the sidewalks. You know, if hot top is temporarily filled to cover an opening in a sidewalk, it usually meant the contractor needs to perform additional work at that location. Mr. Navarro agreed to provide the committee with provide the committee members with a road management plan to address any concerns. The committee voted to refer back to the city council with a recommendation to refer back to sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and that addressed my concern. Thank you.
Councilman McKinnon? Oh, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion to refer all these back to the sponsor. All in favor? All opposed? So moved. All those have been referred back to sponsor. I think we're on 41 now. Michael?
Oh, you got me.
41.
Item number 41 is Committee of the Whole report. The city serves as the city engineer providing information regarding flooding concerns at Cottage Street behind Park Plaza and the culvert area on Spring Street. Additionally, it was requested all other known areas of frequent flooding throughout the city be identified and that information as to what steps have been taken or will be taken to address these issues be provided.
Committee recommendation? Council Capone?
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, we didn't meet on this. This was scheduled before Monday's meeting, and with the snow, it was canceled. I'm sure we're going to have a committee of the whole before our next meeting, so I'd ask if we could lay this over on the table. to our
Second
next meeting.
motion.
Motion made, second, refer item number 41 back to the committee on the whole. All in favor, signify
Aye.
by saying aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Council Delasola.
I'd like to take 42, 44, and 50, and further time on those three items.
And 50.
42, 44, and 50.
Second.
Motion made, second, to take 42, 44, and 50 collectively. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Council Delasola.
Item number 42, Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety, and Public Service Report. To have a representative of National Grid come to speak regarding work being done on Ferry Street. 44, Government Operations, Public Safety, Public Service Report. To invite Building Department, Assessor's Office, City Engineer to the Government Operations meeting to explain why there are properties throughout the city that are being sent tax bills sent to them with different addresses on their mailed copies than their number of their street. What was the third one?
50.
50.
Item number 50, Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety, Public Service Report, to look into the cost of adding both lighting and cameras along the bike path to increase public safety and easier access to public use. Also to request how often, if at all, our police department monitors this area each evening. Motions to grant further time.
Make a motion to.
Oh, all those were recommended, I'm sorry, but they were all recommended to grant further time.
Second.
Okay. Council Delasola, you have the chair. Always.
Excuse me?
What do you want to do with these?
Grant further time.
Grant further time.
Okay, motion for grant second.
Second.
Motion made second to grant further time. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You have granted further time. We're on 40, did we do 44? Yeah, no, that was
Yeah,
44.
49?
I think.
49.
Item number 49, Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety, Public Service Report. The representative from the City Services Department and City Engineer appear at our next council meeting to discuss the continuously defunct crossing light at the intersection of Broadway and Second Street.
Councilor Capone.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was in committee, and the recommendation was to refer this to our city engineer.
Yes.
So I'd move that we accept the committee report and refer it to the city engineer.
I second that
Thank
motion.
Motion made second to accept the committee report and to refer to the city engineer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, you have referred to the city engineer. 53, Michael?
Yep. Item number
No.
53, Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety and Service Report to get an update on the Waters Ave project from the city engineer.
Refer to the mayor's office.
To report back to the council, recommending to refer to the mayor to submit emergency funding for this project to the city council so remediation can work, remediation work can commence immediately.
With a report
Accept
back.
the committee report
Yeah.
and refer to the mayor's office.
Second.
Motion made second to refer the committee report, to accept the committee report and refer back to the mayor. Councilor
Yes.
McLaughlin.
Mr. President, on the motion, I would like to publicly thank Mr. O'Rourke for meeting with Councilor Delasola and I last week down on Waters Ave with the developers. I apologize that I was unable to attend the public safety meeting last week, but did read all of the minutes of the meeting. We're asking to see if the mayor can go forward in grant some emergency funding. The developer has completed Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the drainage issues down on the Waters Ave, Valley Street neighborhood. Now we need to take the project and move it to Phase 3 and complete Phase 3 of the project. It's the only way to resolve the flooding issues in that neighborhood for those residents, and that's why we're asking for the mayor to look at this favorably for emergency funding. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion to refer back to his honor the mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You have referred.
Item number 55, order sponsored by Council John F. Handler, President, the sum of $26,000 be transferred from the following accounts into the Police Department's account as follows. Administrative vehicles, $4,082, bucket truck, $325, F-550 hot box, $3,190, chipper truck, $10,296, Bobcat, $6,127, vehicles, $1,980. This transfer will fund the purchase of a new vehicle for the Animal Control Officer.
Councilman McLaughlin.
Mr. President, on the motion, I do have one question on this. I don't know if I can ask Chief or Staff to appear before us on the motion, please.
Motion made and seconded to have the chief of staff appear before us. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Good evening, Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff.
Mr. O'Donnell,
I'm
thank you.
I'm sorry, Councilman McLaughlin, go ahead.
Mr. O'Donnell, thank you for coming, appearing before us, sir. I have just one brief question. Have we hired a new animal control officer for the city of Everett, or are we still sharing one from the outside? Do you know?
I believe an offer has been made or is in the process of being made.
Should we hold on this purchase until we have somebody in place that can tell us what they need for a vehicle, what their utensils, what they need to be able to do their job? I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse on this one, by purchasing this, and then it doesn't end up being the right vehicle. It doesn't have what we need it to have. I don't know your opinion on that.
Well, the police department has a good overview of what is needed equipment-wise and everything, and it's coming at their recommendation. So I'm comfortable with the fact that this is exactly what would be needed for them to serve their purposes, as they do have the direct oversight of the animal control officer.
Do you know what kind of vehicle we're purchasing, brand new, used, the details on it?
That I do
You
not
don't.
know.
Okay, I didn't, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that, but I excuse customary thanks, Mr. O'Donnell, for
Any
appearing.
further questions? Okay, thank you very much for attending.
Move favorable action.
Favorable action. Second. Motion made and seconded, favorable action on item number 55. Any further discussion? Councilman Capone.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, through you to our clerk, are these funds coming out of the police budget, or are they being shifted from other areas?
The, what number are we on?
Number 55.
On 55, from what I understand, they're coming from different, some of them, I believe, are coming from different areas, so either way, it would need 8 votes, I believe.
Okay.
in order to pass.
Are we able to vote on this evening? Where
Yes, it's
coming from?
unfinished, we laid this over from the
Oh,
last meeting.
this was before, it's
So
before.
we have fulfilled
Okay.
that charter
Okay,
requirement.
good. I don't remember seeing it,
And
so.
I believe we did it for that reason, because we were unsure if they were all
Okay.
police department transfers. So to be safe, we laid it over, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Motion for favorable action. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counsel Capone.
Yes.
Counsel Delasola.
Yes.
Counsel DeFlorio. Counsel DePiero.
Yes.
Counsel Mangan.
Yes.
Counsel Matusky.
Yes.
Counsel McKinnon.
Yes.
Counsel McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counsel Napolitano.
Yes.
Counsel Simonelli.
Yes.
Counsel Hanlon.
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. President.
you have passed the order. Clerk will read item 56.
Item number 56, resolution sponsored by Counsel John Leo McKinnon, Counsel DePiero, Counsel Capone, Counsel Mangan, Counsel McLaughlin, to invite Senator Sal Di Domenico, Representative Joseph McGonigal, Sheriff Peter Katusian, Steve Tolman from Governor's Task Force to the Special Committee on Opioid Crisis meeting to discuss what grants and possible funding is available to the City of Everett to help individuals and families that are struggling with addiction, to see what steps we can take as a community to combat this in our community.
Refer this to the Opiate Crisis Committee and invite all the individuals named above.
Motion made and second to refer to the opiate committee, and any further discussion? All in favor signify by Councilor DeFlorio.
I'm sorry, one quick question. I hope I'm not out of line, but is this committee televised so that people can see?
Yes.
It is, okay, thank you.
This committee may meet wherever they want. They could go out of town, and a committee of their committee may meet out of town. That, of course, would not be televised. But the committee that they come back to report to would be televised. Okay.
The formal session would be televised. Thank you,
Motion
Mr.
made,
President.
second, refer to the committee. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, so moved.
Item number 57, an ordinance sponsored by Council John F. Hanlon that any owners of a utilities pole in the city of Everett that wish to remove or replace a pole must, before any work is performed, said utility owner must appear before the Everett City Council.
Okay. You gotta, well, you gotta refer it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
It's an ordinance.
Can we make a motion to refer this to legislative affairs?
No,
Refer
to
to
the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Second.
Motion made and second, refer to, under our rules, refer to the next meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so move. You refer to the next meeting. 58.
Item number 58, resolution sponsored by Council Steve Simonelli, that the Chief Police be respectfully requested to attend the next Government Operations Public Safety and Service Committee to discuss some creative ways to help stop gun violence, as well as give an update on M13 movement in Everett, and request the Chief bring an update on all registered gun owners, that they be checked for any violations in the past few years, also to check them to make sure they're all legally licensed with a written gun permit to carry.
Councilor Simonelli.
Before we put it to committee, Councilor Simonelli would like to say that we need more creative ways in the city to approach gun control. Also, the people of Everett must get involved. They must see it, hear it, and report it. MS-13 is in our city, and let's attack the cancer now before it spreads. And the more it spreads, the more will be affected. Motion to refer to Committee of Government Operations, Public Safety, and Public Service, and to invite the Chief of Police and Mayor to attend.
Councilor DePiero.
I just want to comment that there was a recent news report that the MS-13 activity is definitely an issue. There was a big FBI investigation that swept through several cities in the area that I think they apprehended in the 50 somewhat individuals. So it's definitely a big concern and something that we need to have a conversation about.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, you have referred to committee with invites.
Item number 59 is an ordinance sponsored by Council John F. Hanlon, existing double utility pole ordinance be established to remove double utility
Under the
poles.
rules, next meeting.
What can be referred to? You can. Okay.
Refer this item to the next meeting.
Motion made and second to refer back to the next meeting. Councilor DeFlorio.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little confused, I'm sorry. I don't mean to, but on an ordinance, we can vote on it the same night,
No.
as long as,
No, it's got to be referred to a committee.
No, it
I mean,
can't.
it got to be referred to the next meeting. Next meeting on the committee.
Oh, wait a minute.
Mr. Chairman?
yeah, I think it's a little confusion.
No, I'm sorry, that
Yeah.
the council is right. You
Yeah.
can't vote on it finally.
It can't be a final
And
vote.
since it takes two
Two.
readings.
It takes
you
two
can vote.
readings, so we can vote on
Right.
it now and also vote on, we have to also vote on it next time,
Right.
right?
You can't finally
Because if we
vote on
refer it to the next meeting now, you're not gonna, now you're pushing it 3 meetings.
Right.
Is that, am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
You vote on it tonight.
You couldn't hold another special meeting this evening and do it.
So,
I'll rescind that motion.
so that we have to make a motion also to take the other one out.
Well,
Reconsider.
let's do
this
the one we're
first
working
and
on
then-
right now,
yeah.
which is 59.
Yeah.
Good catch. Okay. Councilor Napolitano.
Yeah. Wouldn't the proper motion be to send this to committee where we will create the ordinance? We can't really vote on an ordinance tonight, we don't have one, correct?
You don't
So-
have it? Yeah, you have the ordinance.
You have an ordinance?
It was mailed to us.
Okay. Okay, I'll stand down.
Councilor Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am so happy to vote on this important order, whether it's tonight or next week, or the next meeting. Double poles have caused a lot of aggravation in this community for many years. And you're the sponsor of it, and I just went over this tonight as I received it in my mailbox. And, you know, a lot of these utility companies claim it's the other guy's fault, and it's Comcast, it's Verizon, it's National Grid. So now we can actually find out who is responsible. I mean, they're putting wires up near McKinnon's, the street slips my mind, but they got wires holding 2 poles up and nuts and bolts with 2x4s. It looks terrible. So now we can actually do something about it, and I'm very happy that you put this ordinance together, and it's long overdue, and I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Any further discussion on item number 59?
What committee?
Make motion for favorable
Hearing
action.
none?
Mr. Chairman, honestly, I've served on Ways and Means many times, and I'm fine with the ordinance. I actually did recall reading it at home. It momentarily slipped my mind. But again, only because we don't have a copy of it here. But I think I would prefer that this gets referred to committee to be reviewed and agreed on, and have a recommendation from that committee. So in the event that collective minds come up with other options or other resources, or even an enhancement to this, that we give this ordinance that opportunity. So my motion would be that this would go to the Government Operations.
No, legislative.
Legislative Affairs.
Operations.
Excuse me, thank you. Listen to you.
Sorry.
Motion made and seconded to refer to government operations. Any further discussion?
Legislative affairs. Legislative.
Oh, it was changed?
Yeah.
I haven't figured out.
Motion made and seconded to refer this matter to the Committee on Legislative Affairs. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You referred it to Legislative Affairs.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd like to
yes.
call for reconsideration on item 57.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for reconsideration, item number 57. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item 57 is before you.
Okay, for the same reason, I would refer that to the same committee as the previous item, because they both go hand in hand.
Motion made and seconded to refer the subject matter to Legislative Affairs. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. You have referred to Legislative Affairs. Item 60.
Item number 60, Mr. President, is a resolution sponsored by Council Peter Ray Napolitano that the administration consider through community development to set aside funds from the wind project when received to assist property owners in Everett Square in converting unusable business second and third floor spaces to residential. This would add additional residential element to the square while changing the tax base on those properties to a mixed use.
Councilman Napolitano.
Thank you. You know, we see examples of this every day. You go to Medford Station Landing. You go to Assembly Square. These are all newer representations of this. But when we look at some of the other neighboring communities, Melrose, what makes Main Street in Melrose a viable residential and retail environment? What turned Davis Square around a few years ago? Okay. Right now, our property owners in Everett Square have not been able to be able to do the best they can in those buildings, primarily because the second, third floor locations on most of those, because of the lack of handicap access, most of them have been vacant for a considerable amount of time. Because they've been vacant, most of these properties have deteriorated as well, okay? The trend, and the reason why I mentioned Assembly Square, why I mentioned Station Landing, is the trend is to help increase the population in a square to develop a more viable marketing base, okay? When you look at Everett Square, yes, we have Sacro Plaza, we have the large apartment, we have Park Plaza. But in the square proper, we've got business owners that are struggling to pay their commercial taxes because they're not able to get the full value back from their properties. If we could take money from the easy source is what's coming from wind. If we're able to take a small percentage of that, create a fund. I've asked in the past that community development look into grants and other options. If we're able to develop a way that business property owners can then borrow money or have some other means of being able to have revenue to be able to reconvert these properties into a mixed use, you're now generating a situation where you have a residential base living in the square that'll utilize these services. This will attract other businesses, things like, possibly like a Starbucks, or other businesses that are looking at the demographics of how many people are actually coming through their places. It'll increase the business for our square. It'll also take some of the tax burden off our commercial owners, because instead of their properties being assessed at full commercial value, where they have spaces that are not being utilized, they'll be assessed for mixed value. So they'll be assessed for residential on the top of these buildings, commercial on the bottom. Okay? This trend is going on nationally. We don't look into this as a way to be able to work with our property owners here. You know, we run the risk of losing the square. It's already diminished considerably to what it was 20 years ago. I remember when I opened my business in 1991, the traffic flow from the 300 people that worked across the street at what was then Bank of Boston, the people that worked in other space in the square, there were people that came in and did business. When those people moved and left, a lot of our businesses, long-term businesses, dried up, went away. So I'd like us to explore that. I really would like to see us explore that possibility, see if there's a way to turn it around. You know, there's a lot of character in a lot of these buildings. You've got buildings that were designed in 1903. You know, I would love to see us be able to enhance that and be able to make those buildings viable while preserving the history that goes with them. Otherwise, the alternative is eventually somebody's just going to bulldozer it away, and all of that's just going to be fond memories for some of us who've been around for a while. Okay? Not that progress isn't important, but being able to develop those properties, if it's possible, to be able to get more out of it for both the city and the taxpayers who own those properties, I think is a good move. And I think it's a worthy investment. I'm not looking to spend money from the city, I'm looking to invest money back from the city back into the city. So what I would like to do is I would like to send this to the Government Operations, Public Safety, and Public Service Committee, and invite representatives from Community Development, the Mayor's Office, and the Chamber of Commerce. Have a discussion to see if this is something that's worth pursuing. Okay? I haven't done the economics, but I've done enough research on the principles behind this that I think that this is a worthy direction to at least consider. So I'd ask that you support that and send that to committee.
Counselor, I missed one of the, I'm sorry, I missed one of your, I get the mayor and the Commerce?
Representative from Community Development,
Okay,
the Mayor's Office, and the Chamber of
I
Commerce.
got it. Okay. Counselor McKinnon?
I think this is a great idea as well, and I welcome it in government operations. I'll add my comments there. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Matusky?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I have some questions regarding this. Now, we all know Everett Square, there's some buildings there. We'll take the Brigham's building on the corner of Norwood and Broadway. I remember the American Legion being upstairs, and the property has been like that for 40 years. I mean, I'm 57, so maybe 50 years. Nobody's been able to rent that. You gotta go up 75 steps before you get to the second floor. Maybe it's a good idea to remove that building, rather than, you know, I have some issues with this. You know, I know the sponsor's intentions are very worthy and so forth, but, you know, to tell Wynn to come to the aid of buildings in Everett Square just doesn't sound fair to them or to me, really. But, and the other thing, you know, you talk about vacant property, Mr. President. When they assess your property, if it's vacant, you do get a decrease in your taxes. They want to know what you get for rents. So, and for instance, above Everett Sporting Goods, they finally put a barber shop up there, maybe a church. But the Brigham's building, Mr. President, has been an eyesore for years. It was a nice-looking building at one time. Across the street, above the Mexican restaurant, I don't know what the story is on the second floor there, but it's a nice-looking building. Beautiful windows. It's been vacant for 30 years. So maybe the guy has a lot of money and he just doesn't want to give a break to various businesses. There's a parking lot right next door to it, a municipal parking lot with 300 spots. The other building across the way there, it's been on the market for 10 years. 10 years, the bank and the dentist business there. And they just can't sell it for whatever reason. They've got tenants in there. Now, I know his intentions are good, but, you know, the Wynn people are going to attract business to Everett. And the other factor is if they do accept some kind of grant, a community development grant, you know, and they sell the property after they get the grant or whatever this angle is here, it just is not fair to, it doesn't make sense to me, to the taxpayers of the city. I know the sponsors' intentions are nice, but, you know, we have a casino come here in 2 years. The property values are going to soar in Everett Square. It's going to be thousands of people. So, you know, these people have held off for 40, 30 years without doing whatever they're doing. And now all of a sudden they want a handout from a company that's going to, you know, turn Everett around. It just doesn't make sense to me. I personally like to see the corner there, maybe it should be a little park area where people can actually sit down and have some trees there. But, you know, I think this is bad precedent. You see what's happening down low at Broadway, Mr. President, with all the new construction. And I've even heard a golf course coming into it. I know
Counselor?
Mr. President, I don't appreciate being interrupted, by the way. We're having a golf course maybe coming where the oil tanks are. These places aren't going to be vacant forever. And I for one don't want to tell people in Everett Square what to do with their property, but to ask Wynn to come to their aid when in 2 years from now they can put any price they want. They're selling single-family homes for $400,000 now in various locations in that area that you couldn't get $150,000 2 years ago for. But needless to say, Mr. President, I know the sponsor's intentions are good, but, and then you've got the variances and so forth to make, anybody else looking to put a residential into a building, a business building, a zone building, would have to go to the Board of Appeals to, make it residential. As far as I know, I've been called many times over the years to assist people in these matters. And then it becomes the Board of Appeals issue. So, whether you're turning something into residential, it just doesn't fit with me. But, that's my feelings on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Mangan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly agree with Councilor Napolitano. Certainly, we have to look at, redevelopment, and whether it's with existing buildings or coming in with new buildings, whatever. Like I said, I see that trend throughout, and I think it's a great thing. We just see it on a little small scale, like down at Station Landing, with regular market rate, either apartments or condos up top, and certainly stores down below. I think it's a great thing, whether it's restaurants or like coffee shops and things like that. The only thing is that what I would ask is that, because I think it's a topic that we all should be able to chime in on, because it's so important. So the only thing I would ask to you, to the council, is that would it be better going to the community as a whole, where we can all sit down and really put our 2 cents into it, instead of leaving it up to, 4 people to 4 or 5 people to make a decision.
Okay.
That would be my only suggestion.
Thank you. Counselor McLaughlin?
Mr. Chairman, on the motion. I remember a couple of years back, we had a meeting at the Conley Center and talked with the business owners in the square about redeveloping their properties. I couldn't agree more with Councilor Napolitano. It needs to happen, but I think there's other alternatives to being able to get these businesses and buildings redeveloped. I know the elevator is a big issue in most of these buildings. They don't want to spend the money to put an elevator into their building, which is the only way to be able to make their second and third floors accessible, which is handicap accessible, which wasn't the case when those buildings were built 100 years ago, 80 years ago, whatever it might be. So, but to take money from Wynn, I think can really be utilized other ways, but I think Councilor Napolitano is 100% right. We need to do something dramatically in Everett Square to change the face of our center of Everett. And I do believe that this should be sent to government operations and public safety. I think that's the reason why we have committees, for these reasons, to hash these things out and refer back with the recommendation. So I definitely support going to government operations.
Counselor Capone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be agreeable to either location, committee of the whole or the government operations, but I have the luxury of being on government operations, so I don't want to twist anyone's arm. I think the piece has merit. I do agree that there is a lot of history in our square. The one thing that I would point out, and I think that the sponsor alluded to it, I don't think this is a grant. I would be against any kind of a grant. It would have to be a loan or something that would have to get paid back, because at the end of the day, and I'm a huge supporter of our commercial base, but at the end of the day, it's private enterprise, and I would not want to take money that should be going to the city and using it for private gain. However, the idea of some sort of a pool of money to help folks similar to what community development does for residential property owners who don't have the money or the means to repair their building, I think that the idea has merit. And I will defer to the majority of the body, whether they want to do a committee of the whole or operations. But I do think it's a good piece, and as long as we're clear that we're not talking about outright grants, I would be in support of the idea.
Councilor McKinnon.
Well,
Sorry, Councilor.
Oh, okay.
Councilor Della Sola.
Yep.
I agree with this piece also. I mean, the square has to be, something has to happen there. If we take the buildings down and redevelop everything, or even use the old buildings, they're almost historical, they are beat up, but if we could do it, like Councilor Capone said, a loan, something to brighten the square. It's just, if you went back 30 years from now, if you went back 30 years, it's the same businesses up top. Nothing's changed. Nothing. Down below, yeah, mom and papa stores, but nothing's really coming out to attract the people in the square. So I agree with this piece tonight on the calendar. Thank you.
Councilor McKinnon.
Well, before, I mean, this goes to government operations, I think we already discussed it. We might as well just vote on it now. I mean, we should just do it. I mean, I want to just add that we should look into a parking study as well, but, well, I mean, what should we do? All right, thank you. So if we could refer it to government ops, and with anyone's input, that would be great, so that we could actually debate it there. Thank you.
Councilor Napolitano.
Thank you. And this was the whole purpose of putting this on. It was to create a discussion, okay? I do want to clarify, right, I agree. I'm not talking about taking money. I don't mean taking money from Wynn. I'm talking about taking money that Wynn is going to be giving to the city of Everett and using a portion of that to invest back in the city. When I mentioned grants, I meant that there are other grants that can be done in conjunction with a loan program from the city to help some of these business owners develop these properties. We have no involvement in there other than maybe pointing them in the right direction. But we do need to do something. The square is not going to benefit from the casino as heavily as some might think. A person who's staying at the casino is more likely to go into Boston than they are to come in and use some of the businesses that we have in Everett Square. And I don't mean that, and I'm not pointing any one particular business out, because I most definitely don't want to be derogatory to anybody who's struggling to earn a living today in today's markets. And having been a business owner in Everett Square, I understand what that means. So I think that this is something that is exactly what I wanted to create, a discussion, and I would like to get that discussion involved with some of the other empowered individuals, as the chamber, the mayor's office, the community development. If there's a way to do it, I believe we should explore it. If it's not going to work for us, then let's put the idea to bed. Okay? So I'm fine with it, whether it's the community as a whole or as the committee. I think the committee might be a little less, might be a little better for some of the guests coming in to be able to answer the type of questions, because again, this is going to be new to them as well. Okay, so and unless somebody wants to modify it, which I will not block, I'd like to keep it as a motion to the committee.
I have a motion to refer to government operations, and it was seconded. That's it. No further discussion then. Motion to refer to government operations. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Government operations it is. 61, Michael.
Item number 61, Mr. President. An order sponsored by Council John F. Hanlon, President, authorizing the city clerk to call for primary election and to set up polling places for the presidential primary on Tuesday, March 1st, 2016.
Accept communication, place on file, favorable action.
It's in order. Okay. Motion made and seconded for favorable action. All in favor signify by answering the roll. I know, answering the roll.
Council Capone. Yes. Counselor Del Sola?
Yes.
Counselor DeFlorio?
Yes.
Counselor DePiero?
Yes.
Counselor Mangan?
Yes.
Counselor Matusky?
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Napolitano?
Yes.
Counselor Simonelli?
Yes.
Counselor Hanlon?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. President.
We pass the order. Item number 62.
Item number 62, City Council Worksheet. The two items, one, A, sponsored by Councilor Wayne A. Matusky, Department of Public Works, consider placement of a fence to separate property lines at the public parking lot at Broadway and School Street, and the matter to be referred to City Services and City Engineer. B is sponsored by Councilor Simonelli, that the Traffic Commission, if they are not able to do it, appeal to the Mass Highway Department, change the timing mechanisms on lights along Broadway, Route 99 to Glendale Square, Ferry Street, Everett Square, from Broadway to Chelsea, Broadway to Second, to relieve the congestion that happens every day, red light too long, green light too short. Also, Broadway and Norwood Street. Refer to Traffic Commission, and please invite sponsor to attend your next meeting on this serious matter.
Mr. President?
Yes, on the motion, yes, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On item number A on this worksheet, I'd also, if I could, add the mayor's office. And I'd just like to explain briefly, if it's okay, there's a problem there where there's no dividing of the property line, and people are getting towed from the other side. They're reaching over. In other words, when they go in that lot, the meters are attached to the other guy's property. People are thinking they're paying the meter, and they think they're legally parking, but in fact, they're actually not even in the parking lot. It's not a long stretch for a fence there, so. And it was told to me, Mr. President, that there was an agreement to actually put a fence there when they did that lot, and they never did that. As a matter of fact, they don't even landscape it when it was first put in. But anyway, I'd like to add the mayor's office to that, if I could. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. It's a work order, so there's no problem. Okay. Michael, item 61, take care of the vote then. I'll accept it. Before we accept the motion for adjournment, I'd like to thank the public for staying till the end of the meeting. Okay, and with that, I'll accept the motion. I'll accept the motion for reconsideration, for adjournment. We have adjourned.